Pterosaurs, flying reptiles, flyers, famously known for their ability to fly, and undisputed kings of the floor is lava. Playing a flyer can be one of the safest experiences that you can have in a survival game, as you have something that most players don't, and that's the ability to dip out of any situation before things get ugly. But what would it be like if we tried to survive as a flyer that couldn't fly? Well, in today's Path of Titans video, I set myself the task of travelling to Crater and back on foot, no flying allowed. Will we do it? How many deaths will it take? And how viable is a vertically challenged pterosaur? Well, let's find out. Before my adventure began, I had to choose carefully what flyer I used for the challenge. I wanted to make it so it would neither be too easy or too difficult, at least for this first attempt. Hats was too tall, and I felt like I'd stick out like a sore thumb. Meanwhile, Thalasso felt just right, so I went with him as my choice, naming him Aeroplegic to label him and highlight his handicap for all to see. The journey itself began on a lonely island in the middle of the ocean, which in most cases wouldn't usually be a problem, but now it looks like I'm going to have to take up swimming as a hobby. It's moments like these that I'm glad that most people don't actually play aquatics out in the ocean from my own experiences, so my chances of getting into trouble are quite low, but never zero. While I began my adventure paddling to the mainland, let me explain my plan in a little more detail. It's my idea to head to Crater, which is near the centre of the map, touch the meteorite in the centre, and head back to the same island I began on, with as little issue as possible. The only rule is that I can't fly. I will do quests on the way to aid my general survival, however it is not my primary focus, and I will be prioritising getting there and back again instead of trying to invest in any perks. I will however make sure I remain fed and hydrated throughout. Just so you know, I'm playing on official servers and I'm also a relatively new player to Path of Titans, so you may see some rookie mistakes here and there. But anyways, on with the challenge. Upon reaching land, I took a moment to be thankful for the safe swim. However, it seems I was on borrowed time and didn't even realise, as I was being hunted without my knowledge. I spent some time beefing with what was likely AI, shouting at the water beast from land just like Groudon did when Kyogre had the audacity to splash him with some water. After my beef with the local sea life was over, I started my grounded journey to the crater, and I was thankful for my rather speedy travel speed. I did my best to keep a low profile, and I made it to my first area to drink in the Green Valley. I saw some locals being terrorised by some crocs, which made me a little bit anxious, but I felt like I needed to get some food in my system, so I risked going fishing. Little did I know, since I last played, the developers added some fish that found it offensive that I wanted to eat them, and it almost cost me my life. I told you you're dealing with a novice Path of Titans player here. The next part of my journey was mainly made up of pure crusading across the map, whilst checking my position and keeping an eye out for trouble. Most of the trouble came from waves of AI, specifically tortoises, trying to murder me. At one point I had a whole squadron chasing me down, and the brutal truth is that they could probably kick my ass right now, hence why I didn't engage. I do not fancy getting set back in this challenge due to some amphetamine pumped reptiles. Now, as mentioned before, it's not my main priority to grow this guy, but I will take advantage of any quick free growth I can get, because in the end of the day, a little bit of extra health could be what makes the difference between life and death. So I headed to the nearest home cave to get the logout bonus, as I also needed to step away from the game for a short while. Once I was back, I didn't linger and I carried on with my journey. While I was on my way, I did quests here and there, whenever it was quite straightforward, as I didn't really want to dwindle in one location for too long. I came across this large lizard that seemed to be unbothered by me. Perhaps he was confused as to why a scaly seagull was spending so much time on the floor. I realised my hunger was getting low and I took my chances with him, presuming he was probably stuck on the spot. This was incorrect, and he proceeded to kick my ass to the point that I almost died. Once I escaped, I took my chances with another fish that also almost ended my life, but I was over being a cowardly little baby, and I luckily managed to kill it with a little bit of my own health to spare. Thankfully, I don't think I'll need many more meals in the future before I finish this challenge, as long as we keep the pace. The majority of the journey from here went relatively well. As you can see from this sped up footage, I managed to go long distances undiscovered whilst also being chased down by the occasional AI dino. You guys were probably expecting me to be dodging Rexes and Raptors left, right and centre, but nope, you get tortoises and defensive fish. That false impression of safety didn't last too long though, as things quickly changed when I reached the crater. I spotted a Ceratosaurus soon enough to get my head down, and hope and pray I don't get discovered. So after that tense moment, the Sarah gave me enough space to feel safe enough to go touch that meteor and make my long journey home. I managed to keep under the radar for the most part, although on occasion I would pass some players that seemed to take no interest in me. Perhaps they just pretended that they couldn't see me, just like I do every time I have to walk past that homeless guy on the street. I was feeling optimistic and happy that I managed to make it this far. All I had to do now was make it back. My plan was to join the swamp near the birch woods and then follow the river all the way down to the southern coast. Surely it would be that easy, right? Well, as I was on my way back to my lonely island, I once again made a fish stop. I saw a tasty looking amphibian fish and I ate him. I got a full stomach and made a safe journey home. Is what I wish I could say. This is what really happened. Well, there goes my Deathless Challenge run, but we can still finish this at least. Looking at the map, I noticed that it had placed me on an island that was closer but still a considerable distance away from my goal. This journey has now become a swimming journey. Once again, I felt grateful for picking up a flyer that had a good swim speed. I just had to use my stamina carefully and hope I don't get spotted by all 2 players playing aquatics on Path of Titans. Those of you with thalassophobia might feel uncomfortable looking at some of these scenes, and trust me, as somebody who has the same phobia myself, it made me feel very uneasy, worrying about the potential for a very real fear to come true, and that's a very large and hungry creature to be watching me as I crossed the vast ocean, and for all I knew, that could have been very much the case. Upon reaching Red Island, I decided to wait it out for a bit and get some rest, also choosing to spend my marks on a new flashy skin that really serves looks. The blue really brings out my feelings of depression and suffering. Once things got a little bright, I continued the last leg of my journey, or should I say last flipper, as persistence to survive has turned me into an amphibian, and soon enough I made it back to my little island and returned to the exact same point that my journey began. So that was my challenge. It's a shame that it couldn't be a deathless run, and it's a bigger shame that I died in a stupid way, but hey ho, I'm no experienced Path of Titans player, and I'm sure you guys had a good laugh of it, and that's what matters. Here's what my total journey looked like across the whole map, highlighted by the areas that I discovered. Maybe in the future I will try more challenge runs like this, so let me know in the comments what silly or wild ideas you may have, and you never know, I might try them one day. And with that, I'll see you around.